So many people claim that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the most underrated Spider-Man movie of all time, only next to Spider-Man 3. On IMDb, it has a score.
To be honest, I like the first Amazing Spider-Man better than the somewhat better than the second one. Hey, if that's a hot take? I don't know.
Of 6.6, on Metacritic it's 49, and on Letterboxd it's averaging at 3.2 out of 5. Average score being 5.97, so the movie's actual score should be a 6 or above for this to be considered underrated. So let's look back at Amazing Spider-Man 2 to see if it is indeed underrated. The first shot of this movie is a close-up of clock gears. If you know, you know. Never noticed that. 6 out of 10. So we start off in a plane in a flashback with Peter's parents, and this hitman, Loki, kinda sucks. Like, he's meant to be inconspicuous, but he comes out of the cockpit washing his bruised and bloody hands. You didn't think that was gonna ring any alarm bells? It's actually not that bad. In fact, I'd say it's a pretty good action sequence. But my issue with this comes in at the roots with the question, did we even need this whole parent plotline? I know it's one of the most criticized points of this movie, but for good reason.
I honestly forgot that part even happened.
Inherently important to the Spider-Man character, and it just rids him of the whole regular guy angle. Listen, we'll stay on a 6 out of 10 because this plot isn't that bad. Yet. So we have the true opening sequence to this film and Spidey dropping into New York City.
Look how clean that is, yo!
To stop. Yet. So we have the true opening sequence to this film and Spidey dropping.
Look at the textures of the suit.
Into New York City to stop Paul Giamatti stealing a bunch of Oscorp chemicals. I think it's like plutonium or something.
I don't care, bro. That series is tough. The two movies that we got out of it, it's tough.
The one thing everyone raves about with this movie is the CGI, and you always hear the same fucking thing. Oh my god, this is peak superhero movie CGI, and everything since has regressed.
It is.
I've held this opinion too, but recently I've been like, was it actually that good? Like, this movie came out 12 years ago and people are still glazing its visuals. So now
exactly, it came out 12 years ago and it's still holding the test of time. And it's looking even better than how the new ones are looking, bro.
I've seen this movie for the third time.
That's because you got desensitized. That's why. By how computer generated everything is nowadays.
I mean, in my life, I've gotta say, the CGI is pretty goated. Especially after watching Supergirl,
so I'm saying,
in my opinion, had some pretty abhorrent VFX and visuals. The difference was like night and day. The Spider-Man suit in this movie just looks so fucking beautiful in every shot it's in. I also love the lens texture they used for the eyes. I think they may have CG'd the lenses in most shots, but if they did a damn good job. The camera shots and angles, whether it's artificial or not,
like, look how tough that is!
And dynamic. Overall,
so you telling me if you're an 8-year-old kid seeing that for the first time in the movie theater, you seen that the first time for the movie theater, and you not gonna be like, oh my gosh, bro, this is peak, this is amazing, I'm gonna go ask my mom to buy the toy right now. You telling me you're not gonna do that? That's a darn lie.
The visuals for this scene, we're going up to a 7 out of 10. This entire action sequence is pretty good, however, it is a bit questionable when Spidey dips out to let this truck rummage through a couple of cars, which presumably did have drivers in them just to save one guy. Spidey's arrest of Alexei, I love the quips and the dialogue, everything is just so well done, especially Hans Zimmer's theme. Low-key, the Hans Zimmer theme for this movie, for Spider-Man, it's not talked about enough online. I loved it as a kid. Hans Zimmer theme for this movie, so well done, especially Hans Zimmer's theme. Low-key, the Hans Zimmer theme for this movie, for Spider-Man, it's not talked about enough online. I loved it as a kid, and I still think it's really great. Overall, this entire sequence, good shit. We're up to an 8 out of 10. Can I just say, I totally forgot Jamie Foxx was in this movie. And can I also say, I forgot how fucking weird the Max Dillon characterization is. It's a bit cliche slash tropey, like the nerdy weirdo turns into a powerful villain, and I don't think Jamie Foxx was the correct casting choice for that direction. It also kind of reminds me of the new Spider-Man animated series. Like, Max Dillon is a loser, then he turns into a blue Electro, like, the similarities are there. Anyway,
he did pretty good though.
Sympathetic in that he's a bullying victim and
he did pretty good. I fell for it.
Alone in his apartment, but he's genuinely a fucking weirdo. Am I gonna feel bad for a guy like that? Like, he's picturing Spidey to be his fake anime girlfriend. Like, I don't know. I feel like they did a bit too much. Max Dillon, not Electro. He's a negative for me in this movie. So we're down.
He's still a human.
Jimmy Olsen. We'll stay at a 7. I know I've already mentioned it, but just a dedicated point to that Spidey suit. Oh my god, it looks gorgeous. And the fact that I can't even tell if it was polished with CGI. But there was a vision with every one of these shots, and they pulled it off every goddamn time. 8 out of 10. We got BJ Novak, aka Ryan from The Office, as Alistair Smythe. Should this movie series had continued, I assume he was meant to take up the Spider Slayer mantle in some way. Probably not the shirtless, ripped version with the laser cannons coming out of his traps, but the metal armor version. The inclusion of him in this movie also annoys me because it deems the Amazing Spider-Man video game as non-canonical. Which I guess should have been obvious from a million other reasons. And we're gonna circle back to this, but bitch, there are way too many villains coming out of Oscorp in this universe. I'm indifferent to the whole Alice Smythe.
There's a lot of villains.
He doesn't really do anything in this movie.
That's how you know they had another plan for this movie. Like they was going to make it a third. They was going to make a third one, bro.
8 out of 10. You know how I said I forgot Jamie Foxx was in this? I also forgot Harry Osborn, played by Dane DeHaan, is in this. Like I knew Green Goblin was in this, but the fact that Harry has this whole other side plot going on throughout this movie. Oh, Jesus. So Norman Osborn is dying, and dies, but not before telling Harry that this genetic disease is also gonna kill him too. I know it's hard to get this kind of information out on screen, but for a potentially final conversation between a father and son, this was very expositional.
Retroviral hyperplasia. I never told you that it's genetic. Our disease. And it began at your age.
Or maybe they wanted the exposition dump because they wanted to show how cold they are to one another. Cinema. I don't know if this is a hot take because I don't frequent online discussions about Amazing Spider-Man 2 that often, but Dane DeHaan? Pretty good casting choice for Harry. He's similar age to Andrew Garfield and he's got that rich boy vibe down. I can't complain. I just feel like his and Peter's friendship was done a disservice because it kind of just comes out of nowhere. But speaking on Harry's character,
it didn't really show like
how they used him in this movie. Sorry, we're going down to a 7 out of 10. Oh yeah, let me briefly talk about Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat, played by Felicity Jones. Another fucking Spider-Man character that's being set up, but doesn't actually end up becoming the character.
Yeah, because there's going to be a third one.
You'll notice you can repeat that sentence a lot of
times. There's going to be multiple.
Got it.
Nice catch.
You know what, fuck it, let's just talk about all the setups this movie tried to do. In Harry's USB block thing, we see a mention of Dr. Morbius, and we see a mention of Venom, but that could actually be referring to literal Spider-Venom, so I don't know. Mr. Fierce, aka the Gentleman, or whatever the fuck, he walks past a pair of vulture wings, and Dr. Octopus tentacles, and a Venom symbiote in the trailer, which didn't make it into the final movie. Like, bro, I get you wanted to do a Sinister Six movie, or whatever the fuck, but you can't just hand these out like flyers. If I see a guy get 4 robotic tentacles attached to his back, forgive me for wanting to see his relationship with that weapon and how it came to be. We can only use
but it wasn't time yet.
Volunteer things so many times. Anyway, stupid. I'm glad we moved on from this era of cinema where every studio wanted to make their own cinematic universe to make the same amount of money as Marvel, and they were all busting nuts before touching first base. Everything about this is a -2. So we're down to a 5 out of 10. Speaking of villains, let's talk about Electro. His origin itself of falling into the vat of eels while holding that electrical pipe or whatever, potentially hot take. I don't think it's bad. It's just typical comic book shenanigans. I don't know what else you would expect.
It's not too bad. The biggest
problem I have with Electro though, no, it's not the electricity fixing his teeth. No, it's not the Dr. Manhattan testicle look. It's his characterization. Once he gets his powers, his personality changes pretty quick. And once we're past the Times Square sequence, forget it. Just not the same character. And of course, to explain this great personality shift and to show everyone that he is a villain, he has some very good lines. He just becomes so corny and cliche and bland, and it didn't even explain where his suit comes from, which I don't really care about that much, but come on. There's a fucking lightning bolt symbol on his arm. You're gonna blame me for being curious? And I know everyone glazes his theme, yeah, it's pretty good, but the other track where the lyrics literally just say what he's thinking, it's so not show, don't tell, it just took me out of the movie.
He lied to me, he shot at me, he had electricity.
Overall, I think the character of Electro was a letdown for this movie. We're going down.
Yeah, it was. Nobody really cared about him like that.
Hold the fucking phones. Not only are the visuals absolutely stunning,
yeah, that's
what you expect from a comic book movie.
Bro, that scene was hard, bro. Like, I was expecting every scene like to be like that, actually, because when he showed up with the rhino, I thought, like, not looking at the time of the movie, but I thought we was gonna have like a little fight, like a clash, like, but And, you know, if you watch the movie, you know it didn't happen. But this scene right here was amazing. It was crazy.
But just the action and just the choreography and Andrew Garfield's acting, oh, everything is perfect. I don't know what these superhero directors were on back in the mid 2010s, but these time-stopping slow motion bits with pretty much perfect CGI, they were very appreciated. Sure, Spider-Man is moving impossibly fast to prevent people from touching the stairrail, which probably could have been fixed during editing just by rearranging clips, but coolness over everything. I love how Spider-Man uses the environment as well and uses the hose from the firefighters with the firefighter helmet on. It's just so Spider-Man. Throughout this, I kept thinking, holy shit, I wonder how much of this was actually shot in Times Square. Because obviously New York City isn't gonna let any studio just take up one of the most recognizable places in the world for a few weeks. Apparently almost all of it was CGI. The only shot that was actually taken in Times Square was Electro walking into Times Square. Everything else was just on a set. Bro, I don't mean to keep glazing the VFX, but with the shit we see nowadays, you just can't help but wonder.
That's what I'm saying.
So much.
How did it, like, the reason why the film got so much hate is because they thought Spider-Man was too cool. That's the main complaints I heard people. Cause the CGI now, oh my gosh.
Right, this whole sequence brings it up to a 5 out of 10. A small J. Jonah Jameson reference. 6 out of 10. Let's talk about Peter and Gwen as a couple. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone obviously some fantastic chemistry, arguably does a lot of the heavy lifting, because between the previous movie and this one, there's a lot of whiplash to do with their relationship status, and it gets pretty tiring, to be honest. Like, you can break up and rekindle within the same movie, but don't break up at the end of the last movie, then kind of get back together at the very end of the last movie, then break up at the beginning of this movie, then sort of get back together but not really later in this movie, then later on you profess your love and then get back together, and then by the end of the movie you're not a relationship anymore because one of you dies.
Yeah,
what? Also, I did get lots of the 500 Days of Summer intimacy from this movie, which makes sense because Mark Webb also directed that movie. And I know I just shout on how Peter and Gwen were written, but they're still a great joy to watch, so 7 out of 10. Also, I only noticed this because I'm Korean, but when Peter is stalking Gwen and Gwen is hanging out with her friends, they're at a Korean restaurant, and then later on they bring up a restaurant with Korean meatballs.
I got completely addicted to this place that has Korean meatballs.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, attention to detail. Okay, let's talk about the whole dad Subway plot. I can see why a producer who's not an actual fan of Spider-Man can look at this idea and be like,
Subway?
whoa, that's a great idea. Spidey's origin wasn't actually random. Twist! But fuck you, this sucks, especially how they go about it in this movie. Aunt May crying her heart out, saying how she's upset that Peter's so obsessed with his parents, despite the fact that Aunt May is the one who raised them, which valid, by the way. She's like, your parents were traitors who sold out for money. I know, I couldn't believe it either. Side note, the fact that Sally Field didn't really like this role kind of sucks because I thought she did a great job as Aunt May. Then bam, Peter finds out that they weren't traitors for money. Like, why do this whole Aunt May thing in the first place? Or even better, why do this whole plot in the first place? Which culminates in Peter using these very specific subway tokens to unlock an underground...
Cause they tried to make him like Batman too much. Because you know how like Batman's parents were actually like gangsters? And that's why they got killed, yada yada yada. Like they actually have a past. Like he wasn't just some normal kid or whatever. They tried to make it too much like Batman. He got a lair right there, a bus station lair, a train station later.
Secret science lab that's in a subway carriage. I have so many questions and none of them implying good things about this movie. I get those meant to be a sins of the fathers theme going with a juxtaposition between Peter and Harry, but it just didn't work for me. This whole subway shit's bringing this down to a 7 out of 10. Now we have another side plot to talk about, and that's Harry's blood hunt. Harry wants Spider-Man's blood because he realized that Spider-Man is the only successful result of Oscorp's cross-species experiments to find out how self-healing works. Peter as Spider-Man is like, dude, I'm sorry, I can't give you my blood. It will do something worse than killing you.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
Side note, during the scene, I noted down I was very distracted by how gorgeous that suit looks. Anyway, I have a few. Spider-Man bother coming in the first place. He just pulls up and says, I'm sorry, I can't give you my blood. It's worse than killing you. With no elaboration and just dips. Why didn't he research his blood beforehand and arrive with findings to explain why it wouldn't work? Why didn't he explain the dangerous link between his blood and what happened with Dr. Connors? Huh? Or why didn't he just say, no thank you, your company is way too shady and fucked up, I cannot risk it. Oh yeah, by the way, this was before Peter finds out that the Spider-Venom was coded to his DNA. I can't even defend him anymore. I'm not saying Peter was incorrect in his decision, but this is your best pal.
I would have gave him blood, bro.
And you're not even gonna try to offer a solution? The drama's just a bit contrived is all. 6 out of 10.
Like when I was a kid, when I was watching, I was like, your best friend about to die? Like he's saying that your blood can help him. I don't know. I might be a good friend, or that might be a little weird, but like, I don't know. I see how that's a little weird. You can't even get your friend a little blood. Like,
Harry's betrayed by Oscorp, so he breaks Electro out, and I'm just
is
gonna
he scared of needles or
takes
some
up 2
shit, bro?
trained security guards. And this whole thing hinges on the fact that Harry needs Electro, and Electro is like, you need me? This whole alliance just felt kinda weak to me. Like, at no point did Electro try to frame himself as a new hero, or did we see him worshipping Harry Osborn, so this just felt like an incomplete payoff. I get that on paper we have low self-esteem needs validation, but it was still a bit weak sauce for me. 5 out of 10. So Harry turns into Green Goblin in this movie.
Yuck.
Let's talk about that. I think in an ideal world, Harry's introduced in this movie as a side character, and then he becomes Green Goblin in the next movie. Maybe they were scared it would be too similar to New Goblin in Spider-Man 3 with the whole Harry becoming Green Goblin in the 3rd Spider-Man movie, but you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. More emotional weight, and just more time for Electro in this movie. Like, introduce the fact that he has a disease in this movie, and let him bond with Peter and Gwen, but I guess there's also another reason they couldn't really wait. We'll get to that later. Also, I don't
They just wanted to fight,
with the Green Goblin
and
legacy
they just wanted
because
to kill
apparently
Gwen.
cut,
That's
the
why.
film ends showing Norman Osborn's decapitated head frozen, like they're gonna bring him back in the future movie. Huh? The Green Goblin look in this movie. Yeah, I'll just say it could have looked better. I don't mind everything on the neck below, which is something you should never say to someone you're on a date with. It's the face and the hair. It's just a huge overcorrection from complaints about covering up Willem Dafoe's face in Spider-Man 1. I don't think anyone was expecting a classic Green Goblin look because this was
should
the
just give him a
grounded
helmet.
realism era of superhero movies. But man, I don't have a solution, and I'm sure
Man, he would have had a helmet in real life,
he
though.
would have looked better in that Sinister Six movie. The transformation sequence was pretty cool, but the Green Goblin character in this movie, it's a negative. We're down to a 4 out of 10. I just want to acknowledge the visuals when Spidey is swinging towards Electro
my
for
gosh.
the final fight.
Amazing.
Absolutely stunning. However, the visuals for the actual final fight, it does not carry it enough, in my opinion. I think the Times Square fight is way more creative and way more captivating. Electro's defeat is pretty underwhelming, which makes sense because he only fought Spider-Man once before this final showdown. Like, how is that even possible for a movie that was sometimes subtitled The Rise of Electro? Not even a dubstep itsy bitty Spider.
So it used to be called The Rise of Electro? And he got clapped like that?
To save this. We're down to a 3 out of 10. And then, Green Goblin pulls up. Honestly, one of the only things I could think of was, damn, this would have hit so much harder if they had a movie to become really close friends and this was their friendship tearing apart. The death of Gwen Stacy has arguably become one of the most famous Spider-Man scenes despite coming from an arguably forgettable movie. And I know everyone has talked about all the good things about the scene to death, like Andrew's performance and the web hand, but I gotta shout him out again. They make the scene. And if you didn't already know, the clock falls to 121, which is a reference to Amazing Spider-Man 121. I think another thing they got right with this is the timing, because
1 a.m.?
to do a series of Spider-Man movies where Gwen is the first love and MJ is the end game, I think it makes sense to end the Gwen stuff at the second movie. Then you can see why Green Goblin was in this movie. What, you thought they were gonna get Electro to kill Gwen? This guy? Also, Mary Jane was completely cut from this movie, so maybe they should have done Green Goblin only for this movie. I know it's kind of weird because arch nemesis for superhero movies usually done in the first movie or the third movie.
So my thing is like, how much do the editors really be ruining a movie? In the studios really be ruining a movie that we be needing? Cause I be like in the internet, I be seeing like so many movie leaks or like so many cut clips or cut photos that didn't make the original cut of the movie that I felt like would have been great for the movie. It always feels like it's missed potential, bro. Like, it's crazy.
Movie, but The Dark Knight did it with Joker. And yes, what I'm trying to say is this movie could have been just as good as The Dark Knight. Overall, Gwen's death scene bumps us up to a 4 out of 10. We're not done yet, folks. There's still another major Spider-Man villain we have to deal with. So Peter's depressed, he's given up on being Spider-Man, and in the deleted scene, Peter's dad is alive somehow. Let's not even get into that. Then Rhino attacks New York in a mech suit with machine guns and missile launchers because that's obviously what Rhino is all about. We have the kid who was saved earlier by Spidey in that neighborhood montage dressed up as Spider-Man.
Tom Holland.
Real Spider-Man shows up. I know the Spider-Man is depressed and everything, and for good reason, but I just can't help but smile. Dude, Andrew Garfield's line delivery and his performance is just too good.
I ask you to put your mechanized paws in the air.
I also like that this ends kind of hopeful, and
It was low-key the best scene in the movie, the end.
they didn't save Spider-Man's return to the next movie because, my god, that would have been depressing. 5 out of 10. But the fact that this ends before we see him fight.
I'll give it a 6.5.
Instead of
like,
putting
overall.
Paul Giamatti in a truck at the beginning, why couldn't we just have Rhino steal the plutonium? Then we have this lingering threat of something dark happening in Oscorp, and Peter wants to investigate that, and that links with Electro. Like, how is that not the easy solution? We get to see Spider-Man fight Rhino, and you turn an A+ scene into an S-tier superhero scene. In terms of how this movie is structured, there's no way we could have had a full fight scene at the very end, which I know a lot of people wanted, but it would have absolutely destroyed the movie's pacing more than it was. Did they fuck up by spamming the literal final shot of the film in every single trailer? Potentially. So
It's
yeah,
tough, though.
I'm kind of mutual on
I
this, so
appreciate
we'll
it.
stick with a 5 out of 10. I'm also not going to adjust the X-Men Days of Future Past credit scene. Okay, the final score for this with a 5 out of 10. I'm also not going to adjust the X-Men Days of Future Past credit scene. Okay, the final score for this is 5 out of 10, which means to me, this movie is not underrated. It's quite reasonably rated. Lots of good stuff in this movie. A lot of questionable decisions as well. Last time I did something like this, it was for Daredevil 2003 with Ben Affleck. Was it underrated? Was it actually a good movie?
I understand,
Maybe check that video out to find out.